My name is William, and I've been a forest ranger in the Smoky Mountains National Park for 10 years. You might think it's a serene job, surrounded by nature's beauty, but I've witnessed things that would make your blood run cold. I still remember my first encounter with the darkness that lurks in these woods, a malevolent force that thrives on fear and revenge. It was a crisp autumn evening when I received a call over the radio. A hiker was reported missing, and my heart sank. I knew the trails well, and the idea of someone lost in the dense forest was unsettling. As I ventured deeper into the park, the air grew thick with an eerie stillness, interrupted only by the crunch of leaves beneath my boots. I felt as though I was being watched, a sensation that sent chills down my spine. My mind drifted to the legends I'd heard, stories of vengeful spirits that roamed these woods, seeking retribution for wrongs long past. I brushed them off as mere folklore, but as I searched for the missing hiker, doubt began to creep in. Why had I chosen this line of work? Was it worth it to face the unknown? Suddenly, I heard a rustling in the bushes nearby. I froze, gripping my flashlight tightly, illuminating the darkness. There, standing just beyond the trees, was a figure, a shadow that seemed to blend into the night. I squinted, but it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. My pulse raced. This was only the beginning of what would become a nightmarish ordeal. The Smoky Mountains are more than just a backdrop. They are a living, breathing entity, a maze of towering trees and dense underbrush that harbors secrets older than time itself. As I continued my search, I felt the weight of history pressing down on me. The park had seen countless visitors, yet there were stories, dark tales, that lay buried beneath the surface. Tales of lost souls, unsolved mysteries, and vengeful spirits that lingered long after their deaths. I paused at a clearing, the moonlight filtering through the branches, casting ghostly shadows on the ground. It was here I met Sarah, a fellow ranger. Her bright smile and adventurous spirit were a stark contrast to the dark tales I carried. We had been partners for a few years, navigating the park's treacherous paths and ensuring the safety of its visitors. Yet, beneath her cheerful demeanor, I sensed a depth, a haunted past that echoed my own fears. She often spoke about her love for the forest, how it felt like home, but I knew it was more complicated than that. The woods were both our sanctuary and our prison. William, have you heard the stories about this place? Sarah asked one evening as we sat around a campfire, the flickering flames dancing against the night sky. People say the mountains are alive with spirits, angered by those who disturb their peace. I shrugged, trying to dismiss her words. Just legend, Sarah. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's all in our heads. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was onto something. I had seen things, unexplainable events that lingered in the periphery of my memory, and they haunted me. The missing hiker was becoming an obsession. Each day that passed without any sign felt like a curse hanging over us. We searched tirelessly, combing through the trails, but all we found were remnants of nature. The occasional backpack, a water bottle, nothing that would lead us to the truth. With every passing moment, the weight of dread settled heavily on my shoulders. As I ventured further into the forest, the atmosphere thickened. Shadows danced at the edges of my vision, and the air grew colder. I could hear whispers carried by the wind, snippets of conversations that faded before I could comprehend them. It was unsettling, yet compelling, urging me to delve deeper. One evening, I stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin hidden amongst the trees. It was weathered and decrepit, yet something drew me closer. The door creaked open, revealing a dusty interior filled with remnants of a life long forgotten. Old newspapers lined the walls, yellowed with age, and as I sifted through them, a chilling story caught my eye. It spoke of a family who vanished without a trace, their last known location marked right where I stood. I turned to Sarah, who had joined me in the cabin. "Did you know about this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She shook her head, her expression turning grave. "I've heard the stories, but I never knew the details. It said their spirits haunt these woods, looking for closure. Some say they seek revenge on those who trespass on their land, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. The pieces began to fall into place. The missing hiker, the whispers, the shadows. It was all connected. I felt a surge of determination to uncover the truth, but it was tainted with fear. What if we unearthed something best left buried? As we explored the cabin, I noticed a journal tucked away in a corner. Its pages were filled with frantic scrawls, detailing the writer's descent into madness, driven by an unseen force. The final entry chilled me to the bone. They are watching. They want revenge. I turned to Sarah, my heart racing. What if the missing hiker crossed paths with this family? What if they'd become part of their story? The thought sent a wave of dread through me. We were not just searching for a lost person. We were unearthing a dark legacy. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, a sense of urgency ignited within me. We couldn't ignore the signs any longer. The shadows and whispers were growing bolder. With each passing day, the fear that something sinister was at play settled deeper in my gut. The park was a vast labyrinth, and as I searched for the missing hiker, it felt as if the very forest conspired against us. Days turned into nights filled with restless searching. My once confident demeanor waned under the weight of our fruitless efforts. Every rustle in the bushes felt like a warning. As we combed through familiar paths, I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest was alive, deliberately leading us in circles. My heart raced as shadows danced in the corners of my vision, and it became harder to differentiate between reality and my growing paranoia. One night, Sarah and I sat in the cabin we had discovered, poring over the journal, desperate for answers. The wind howled outside, creating an atmosphere that felt both ominous and charged. What if the hiker found something they weren't supposed to? I proposed, glancing at Sarah, who was tracing the lines of the journal with her fingers, lost in thought. Or perhaps they were lured here, she replied, her voice shaky. This place, it has a darkness that draws people in, but they don't always come out. Her words hung heavy in the air, filled with unspoken fears. Suddenly, our radios crackled to life, cutting through the tension. William, Sarah, we have a situation on Trail 3. There's been a disturbance reported. The voice on the other end said, urgency lacing every syllable. I exchanged a glance with Sarah, and we sprang into action, our instincts kicking in as we grabbed our gear and headed into the night. As we approached Trail 3, the atmosphere shifted. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, and an oppressive darkness loomed around us. My flashlight flickered, struggling against the enveloping shadows. We arrived to find a group of hikers gathered, visibly shaken. Their eyes darted nervously, and I sensed a tension in the air that was almost palpable. What happened? I asked, my voice steady despite the rising dread within me. We heard someone screaming. It came from the woods. One of the hikers exclaimed, pointing into the dark. We didn't see anyone, but something was out there. It felt like it was watching us. I exchanged a worried glance with Sarah. This was no coincidence. The missing hiker's fate was intertwined with something far more sinister. We need to investigate, I said firmly, and the group hesitated, fear etched on their faces. Are you crazy? We should get out of here, another hiker shouted. But my resolve was unyielding. The forest was hiding secrets, and I was determined to uncover them, no matter the cost. We can't leave without knowing what happened. We owe it to the missing hiker. Reluctantly, the group agreed to accompany us deeper into the woods. As we trudged along the trail, the trees closed in around us, their gnarled branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. The night grew darker, the only sounds being the crunch of leaves beneath our feet and the distant rustling of something unseen. Then we heard it, a low, mournful cry that sent shivers down my spine. The hikers froze, and I felt the air thicken with dread. What was that? One of them whispered, eyes wide with fear. It's coming from that direction, I said, pointing into the dense underbrush. We pressed on, compelled by an unshakable urge to uncover the truth. As we ventured deeper, I spotted something glinting in the moonlight. It was a piece of fabric, a torn section of clothing. My heart raced as I crouched down to inspect it. This belongs to the missing hiker," I murmured, a cold knot forming in my stomach. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from behind us, causing everyone to jump. The hiker's terrified screams echoed through the trees. "Run!" Sarah yelled, and panic erupted as we fled back down the trail, the shadows seeming to close in around us. In the chaos, I lost sight of Sarah and the group. My heart pounded as I stumbled through the underbrush, desperately searching for any sign of them. The forest seemed to mock my efforts, twisting and turning in a disorienting maze. Then I heard it again, the haunting cry, now closer, echoing through the trees. I was being drawn in, compelled by an unseen force. With every step, the air grew colder and the shadows deepened. The journal's words echoed in my mind. "They are watching. They want revenge." Suddenly, I found myself standing in a clearing, the moonlight bathing the ground in an ethereal glow. I could see figures, hazy silhouettes moving just beyond the edge of the light. Panic surged through me as I realized these weren't just shadows. They were the spirits of those who had vanished in these woods, their eyes hollow and filled with a desperate longing. They reached out to me, fingers grasping at the air, as if pleading for help or perhaps demanding retribution for their lost lives. I stumbled back, heart racing, as I understood the missing hiker wasn't just a victim. They had become part of a darker narrative, entangled in the forest's twisted desire for revenge. As the nights grew darker and the whispers in the Smoky Mountains intensified, the complexity of our situation deepened. The primary search for the missing hiker evolved into a tangled web of unresolved mysteries and hidden motives. I could feel the burden of this forest pressing on my shoulders, each layer revealing connections I had yet to unravel. Back at the ranger station, the tension escalated among the rangers. There was an unspoken divide between those who believed in the supernatural and those who scoffed at the tales of vengeful spirits. Sarah and I found ourselves caught in the middle, straddling the line between skepticism and fear. The conflict within our ranks mirrored the external turmoil we faced in the woods. One evening, as we gathered for a briefing, a heated argument erupted. "We can't waste our resources on ghost stories," a senior ranger barked, his face flushed with indignation. "We need to focus on finding that hiker, not chasing after shadows." Another ranger, Jake, leaned forward, his voice low and conspiratorial. "But what if there's something more going on here? The disappearances, the sightings, they can't all be coincidences. We're ignoring something that could put everyone at risk." I glanced at Sarah, who was biting her lip, her eyes wide with concern. The tension in the room crackled, and I could feel the weight of our collective fear. "We need to remain open-minded," I interjected, my voice steady. "This is our home, and it deserves our respect. The forest holds secrets, and we're not alone in it." Jake nodded in agreement, but the senior ranger's glare was cold. "Stay focused on the facts, William. Stick to the protocols. I won't have you spreading folklore that distracts us from our duty." Despite the resistance, Sarah and I pressed on with our investigation. Each day brought new discoveries. More torn clothing, odd markings on trees, and unsettling encounters that further fueled the whispers of a dark presence in the forest. One afternoon, while scouting near the cabin, we stumbled upon a hidden cave, its mouth shrouded in thick vines. "Should we go in?" Sarah asked, hesitating at the entrance. "We have to," I replied, feeling an inexplicable pull towards the darkness. "If there's any chance the hiker ended up here, we need to check it out." As we ventured deeper into the cave, the air grew damp and heavy. The walls glistened with moisture, and strange symbols etched into the rock sent shivers down my spine. The atmosphere felt charged, almost electric, as if the cave itself were alive. In the dim light of my flashlight, I spotted something glinting in the corner, an old, rusted amulet. I picked it up, its surface cool against my palm, and a strange energy pulsed through me. It seemed to resonate with the forest, as if it held a connection to the spirits that roamed its depths. "William, do you feel that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "It's like we're being watched." I nodded, the hair on the back of my neck standing on end. "We should get out of here," I replied, sensing the urgency. But as we turned to leave, a low rumble echoed through the cave and the ground trembled beneath us. We scrambled to find our way back, but the cave had shifted, twisting into a labyrinth of darkness. Panic surged through me as we navigated the disorienting passageways, our flashlights flickering ominously. Just when I thought we would be lost forever, we stumbled upon a hidden chamber illuminated by an otherworldly glow. In the center of the chamber lay a stone altar, adorned with various trinkets, pieces of clothing, photos, and even personal items left behind by those who had vanished. It was a shrine to the lost, a collection of memories, each one a reminder of the lives that had been claimed by the forest. I felt a chill run through me as I realized the implications of our discovery. This is where they bring their offerings," I murmured, horrified. "The spirits demand tribute for their peace." As we examined the chamber, Sarah's gaze fell upon a weathered photo stuck beneath the altar. It was a picture of a family, one that resembled the very family mentioned in the journal. Their faces were frozen in time, smiles etched onto their features, unaware of the fate that awaited them in the depths of the Smoky Mountains. "They were here," she whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "They never left." Suddenly, a gust of cold air swept through the chamber, extinguishing our flashlights. Darkness enveloped us, and the whispers grew louder, echoing off the cave walls. My heart raced as I fumbled for Sarah's hand, my pulse pounding in my ears. "We need to leave now," I shouted, the urgency in my voice slicing through the chaos. As we stumbled out of the cave, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. The forest around us felt charged, alive with an energy that was both exhilarating and terrifying. We had unearthed something profound, yet the knowledge came at a cost. The spirits were restless, and they were not satisfied. When we finally made it back to the ranger station, I found Jake waiting for us, his expression serious. "You two disappeared for hours. What happened?" I exchanged a glance with Sarah, unsure of how to convey the enormity of what we had discovered. "We found something, a shrine to the lost," I replied, my voice heavy with the weight of our experience. "The spirits are angry, and we may have awakened something we can't control." Jake's eyes widened, and I could see the fear creeping into his expression. "We need to alert the others. This isn't just about the missing hiker anymore." As the weight of the forest darkness settled upon us, I realized the conflict we faced was far more than just locating a lost soul. It was a battle against the very essence of the Smoky Mountains, a struggle for peace, redemption, and survival. The air grew heavy with tension as the moon hung low over the Smoky Mountains, casting an eerie glow across the forest. My heart raced with each passing moment, echoing the unresolved mysteries that clung to the trees like shadows. It was a turning point, an inevitable climax of the chaos we had stumbled into. After our harrowing experience in the cave, Sarah and I were restless, haunted by the memories of the shrine to the lost. The weight of the spirit's discontent bore down on us, filling every quiet moment with an unsettling urgency. I found myself unable to shake the feeling that time was running out, not just for the missing hiker, but for all of us. One evening, as I sat on the porch of the ranger station, the sound of the wind through the trees became a haunting melody, whispering secrets I couldn't grasp. Sarah joined me, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. "William, something's wrong." "I can feel it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean?" I asked, my gut churning with unease. "I've been having these dreams night after night. I see the hiker. He's lost, wandering in the dark, and there's something watching him, something sinister." A chill ran down my spine. "We need to act." We can't just wait for something to happen. We have to find him before it's too late. As dawn broke the next day, we gathered the other rangers for an urgent meeting. The atmosphere was thick with apprehension as I recounted our findings from the cave. The shrine, the items left behind, and the unsettling feeling that the spirits were restless. I know this sounds crazy, I began, feeling the weight of skepticism in the room. But the missing hiker is connected to all of this. We need to find him, and we need to do it now. Jake, the most skeptical of the group, crossed his arms defiantly. We've been over this, William. We can't chase after fairy tales. We need a solid plan, not ghost stories. The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, each ranger weighing in with their doubts and fears. Frustration bubbled within me. What if we're wrong? What if there is a spirit in the forest? We can't ignore the signs. This is our job, to protect and serve those who come into our territory. Finally, Sarah spoke up, her voice steady. What if we split into groups and search the areas near the last known location of the hiker? We can cover more ground that way and keep an eye out for anything unusual. The tension in the room shifted, and a few rangers nodded in agreement. Fine, Jake relented, but we stick to the trails. No wandering off into the unknown. Understood. As we prepared for the search, a sense of dread settled over me. The forest felt different, almost alive, its presence heavy with a palpable tension. I could feel the spirits watching, waiting. We set out in 3 teams, each heading in a different direction. Sarah and I were together, navigating the familiar trails while scanning the dense underbrush for any sign of the hiker. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out for us. After hours of searching, we arrived at a clearing that felt strangely out of place. The air was thick, and an unnatural silence enveloped the area. The trees stood still, as if holding their breath. William, do you feel that? Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Yeah, I replied, unease creeping into my chest. It feels wrong. Suddenly, a rustling sound broke the silence. We turned to see a figure emerge from the trees, disheveled and wild-eyed. It was the missing hiker, but something was off. His clothes were torn, and he seemed disoriented, as if he had wandered through a nightmare. Help, please, he gasped, collapsing to the ground. I rushed to his side, my heart pounding. What happened? Where have you been? His eyes darted around as if he were still being pursued. I don't know. I got lost. It's not safe. They're watching. They want something from me. A shiver ran down my spine as he spoke. Who? What do they want? The spirits, he gasped, clutching my arm with a vice-like grip. They're angry. They took me to their shrine. I saw things, dark things. Before I could respond, a deep rumble echoed through the forest, shaking the ground beneath us. The trees creaked and groaned as if something monstrous were awakening from slumber. Run! I shouted, adrenaline surging through me as I pulled Sarah and the hiker to his feet. We sprinted back toward the trail, branches clawing at us as we fled. The forest felt alive, its shadows shifting and twisting, creating a maze of confusion. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from the depths of the woods, a voice I recognized as Jake's. My heart dropped. We need to help him, I shouted, but the hiker pulled me back, his eyes wide with fear. No, it's a trap. We can't go back. The forest trembled as if in agreement, and I could feel the spirits growing restless, their anger palpable. We hesitated, torn between duty and the instinct to survive. But the choice was taken from us. A dark figure emerged from the trees, cloaked in shadow, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. It moved with a fluid grace, reaching for us, and I could feel a chilling energy radiating from it. Run! I shouted again, but the hiker stumbled, and I had to drag him along as we plunged deeper into the woods. The figure followed, relentless in its pursuit, and I could hear the whispers of the forest growing louder, almost deafening. Just when I thought we would be overwhelmed, we burst into another clearing, and I spotted the old cabin we had visited before. It stood like a beacon in the chaos, and I felt a glimmer of hope. "In there!" I yelled, pulling the hiker inside, and Sarah followed close behind. We slammed the door shut, leaning against it as the whispers morphed into a cacophony of rage outside. The figure loomed just beyond the threshold, its presence palpable, and I could feel the very walls of the cabin vibrating with energy. "What do we do?" Sarah asked, fear etched across her face. "We have to confront whatever is out there," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "If we don't face this, it will never end." As we braced ourselves, the realization struck me. We were at a turning point, no longer just hunters of the lost. We had become part of a deeper struggle, a battle between the living and the spirits of the forest. It was a moment that would define us, a moment where we could either find redemption or succumb to the darkness. The air hung thick with tension as we huddled inside the cabin, the wooden walls creaking ominously around us. Shadows danced in the flickering light from the single lantern, and the whispers from the forest outside grew louder, more insistent. I could feel the weight of the spirits pressing in on us, their anger palpable, their wrath simmering just beyond the door. The hiker, still panting and disoriented, sank to the floor, his eyes darting nervously. "You have to understand, they want something from us. They're angry because we've disturbed their resting place." I shot a quick glance at Sarah, who was leaning against the wall, her face pale. "What do they want?" I asked the hiker, forcing my voice to stay steady despite the fear clawing at my insides. "Sacrifice," he breathed. "They want someone to pay for the lives they lost in the forest, for the souls that were never returned." A chill ran through me. "That's not going to happen," I snapped, anger flaring at the thought of offering anyone up to appease those vengeful spirits. Suddenly, the door rattled violently and we all jumped, hearts racing. The figure from the woods was pressing against it, its malevolent energy flooding into the cabin like a dark tide. "What do we do?" Sarah cried, her voice trembling. "We fight," I declared, my resolve hardening. "We can't give in to fear. We have to show them we're not afraid." The whispers intensified, a chaotic symphony of rage and despair, filling the cabin with a cacophony that made it hard to think. I could feel the temperature drop, my breath visible in the air. "William, what if it's too late?" Sarah's voice quaked. "What if they've already chosen? Then we make them see that we're not their enemies," I replied, desperation creeping into my tone. I had to believe there was a way out, a way to turn the tide against this darkness. With trembling hands, I grabbed a nearby flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom. "We need to find something that connects us to the spirits," I said, trying to recall the information from our earlier encounters. "We can't fight them without understanding what they want." "Like what?" Sarah asked, her brows furrowing. "Maybe something from the shrine," I mused, thinking back to the cave. "If we can return something that belongs to them, it might calm them down." The door rattled again, and the hiker looked up, his eyes wide. "We can't stay here. If they break in..." I felt a rush of determination. "We're going back to the cave," I said. "It's our only shot." The moment I spoke, the spirits seemed to sense our resolve. The whisper subsided, replaced by a deep, low growl, echoing from outside the cabin, a warning that shook me to my core. "Let's go now," I commanded, my heart pounding as I moved to the door. Sarah followed closely, and I helped the hiker to his feet, urging him to stay close. As we burst through the door, the moon illuminated the forest, casting long shadows that twisted and writhed around us. The oppressive energy loomed, but we pressed on, adrenaline driving us toward the cave. Each step felt like a defiance against the dark, each breath a challenge to the spirits lurking in the trees. The path felt longer than ever, as if the forest itself was trying to keep us from reaching our destination. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent waves of fear rippling through me. I could feel eyes watching us, feel the anger of the spirits pulsing in the air. What if we can't find anything? Sarah gasped as we stumbled over roots and rocks. We will, I reassured her, though doubt gnawed at the edges of my confidence. We have to. There's no other choice. Finally, we reached the cave, its dark maw yawning before us. I hesitated at the entrance, a surge of dread washing over me. The shrine lay within, a place of both horror and possibility. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside, my flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. The air felt charged, thick with the remnants of the spirits that had once thrived here. Stay close, I instructed, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. We made our way to the shrine, my heart racing as I saw the remnants of the offerings left behind. We need to find something they recognize, I murmured, scanning the area for anything that might resonate with the spirits. My eyes landed on a small, carved figurine, a representation of a hiker similar to those we had found before. This must be it, I said, reaching out to take it in my hands. As I lifted it, a chill ran through the air, and the ground trembled slightly beneath us. I felt the spirits stirring, their presence intensifying. We need to hurry. With the figurine in hand, we rushed back to the entrance. But the air felt different now, charged with an angry energy that threatened to swallow us whole. What if this doesn't work? The hiker whispered, fear evident in his voice. It has to, I said, clenching my jaw as we emerged from the cave. It's our only chance. As we stepped outside, the forest roared to life, the trees swaying violently in an unseen wind. The whispers morphed into screams, echoing through the night. They're angry, Sarah cried. Fear etched across her face. I took a deep breath, holding the figurine high. We mean no harm. We come in peace, I shouted, my voice cutting through the chaos. The energy shifted around us, and for a brief moment, the screams faded, replaced by an eerie silence. I felt a tug at my heart, a connection to the spirits that had lingered here for so long. We bring back what was taken from you, I declared, my voice steady despite the chaos. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and the figure of the dark presence emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with fury. It loomed over us, and I could feel its power radiating, threatening to engulf us. We seek to understand, I shouted, my heart pounding as I held the figurine aloft. To honor you, not to disrespect. The figure hesitated, and I could feel the tension hanging in the air, a moment where everything hung in the balance. The moment hung suspended in time, the air thick with the tension of a million unanswered questions. I could see the dark figure, its features shifting and blurring, as if it were a mirage born from the depths of the forest. My heart raced as I clutched the carved figurine, feeling its smooth surface against my palm. Would it truly be enough to bridge the chasm between our worlds? Please, I whispered, my voice trembling as I fought to maintain my composure. We didn't come here to cause harm. We want to help. The shadowy figure regarded me with its glowing eyes, a tempest of emotion swirling behind its gaze. I could feel the anger radiating from it, an energy so potent it almost knocked the breath from my lungs. But there was something else, an underlying sorrow, a grief that transcended time. It was a longing for recognition, for justice, for the peace that had eluded it for so long. William. Sarah's voice broke through my concentration, her tone laced with fear. What if this doesn't work? What if they don't accept our offering? I glanced back at her, and in that moment, I saw the flicker of doubt in her eyes. It mirrored the doubt gnawing at my own heart, the fear of the unknown that threatened to swallow us whole. But deep down, I felt a spark of determination igniting within me, pushing me forward. We can't turn back now, I replied, forcing strength into my voice. This is our only chance. With every ounce of courage I could muster, I stepped closer to the figure, the forest around us trembling in response. We understand the pain you've endured, I continued, my words steadying me. We've felt it, too, in our own way. We're here to honor those you've lost, to give back what was taken. The figure shifted, its form coalescing into something less menacing and more poignant. I could see the outlines of faces in the shadows, lost souls intertwined with the spirit, their expressions a mixture of sorrow and anger. They were searching for closure, and I realized then that the pain of their loss echoed within me. I thought of my own struggles, the loss of loved ones, the haunting memories that plagued my mind. We were all seeking something: forgiveness, understanding, peace. In that moment of vulnerability, I extended the figurine, my hand trembling slightly. "Take this," I said, voice barely above a whisper. "We bring it back to you. We honor your memory." The figure hesitated, its glowing eyes narrowing as it seemed to weigh my words. A silence enveloped us, the forest pausing in its chaos, and I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us. Then, with a sudden rush of wind, the shadow lunged forward, and I braced myself for impact. But instead of violence, a wave of energy washed over me, a surge of warmth that pulsed through my body, igniting my senses. In that instant, I understood. The spirits didn't seek vengeance. They sought recognition, a way to be remembered. Their anger was born from being forgotten, from the pain of loss that echoed through the ages. "Your pain matters." I spoke with conviction, my heart racing as I felt a connection form between us, an invisible thread that bound our souls together. "We remember you. We will share your story." As if my words had unlocked something deep within the figure, a radiant light began to emanate from its core. It pulsed rhythmically, and I could see the faces of the lost souls become clearer, their expressions shifting from rage to something softer. Gratitude? Relief? I felt Sarah's hand grasp mine tightly, her breath hitching as she shared this moment with me. Together, we stood against the darkness, united by a purpose greater than ourselves. The shadows that had once threatened to consume us began to recede, and I felt the weight of despair lift ever so slightly. "Thank you," a voice whispered on the wind, a sound both haunting and beautiful. It was a chorus of voices, layered and intertwined, echoing through the trees. "You honor us." The energy surged, enveloping us in a cocoon of warmth, and I could feel the spirits begin to fade, their forms dissolving into the night. A sense of peace washed over me, and I closed my eyes, allowing the moment to envelop me. But just as suddenly as it had begun, the warmth began to fade, and the darkness tried to creep back in, threatening to reclaim its hold. I could feel the weight of loss hanging in the air, but it was different now, more like a lingering memory than an overwhelming burden. "William," Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly, "did we really help them?" I opened my eyes and looked at her, feeling the gravity of the moment settle over us like a blanket. "I think we did," I replied, my voice steady despite the uncertainty that remained. "But we have to carry this forward. Their stories need to be shared." The air around us shifted, becoming lighter as the last remnants of the spirits faded into the night. I felt a deep sense of responsibility settle over me, a calling to ensure their memories were not lost to time. As we stood there, staring into the vastness of the forest, I realized that this experience had changed us. It had forced me to confront my own fears, my own grief, and in doing so, I had found strength. In the days that followed, I dedicated myself to honoring the spirits we had encountered. I began sharing their stories, recounting the events that had transpired in the park. I sought to educate others about the importance of respecting the land, the history that lay hidden beneath the surface, and the lives lost within it. Sarah stood by my side throughout, her determination matching my own. Together, we organized community events, inviting locals and visitors alike to learn about the history of the park and the souls that roamed its depths. Through our efforts, we were able to foster a sense of respect and connection to the land, a legacy of remembrance for those who had been lost. I learned that by confronting the darkness and honoring the pain of the past, we could cultivate growth, understanding, and ultimately healing. The experience had shown me that true strength lay not in fighting against the darkness, but in embracing it, in recognizing the stories woven into the fabric of our lives. The weeks following our encounter with the spirits were filled with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. I had poured every ounce of energy into preparing for the event we had scheduled, a community gathering to share the stories of those who had suffered in the Smoky Mountains. We hoped it would be a chance to raise awareness about the park's history, the tragedies that had taken place, and the spirits still roaming within its depths. But as the day approached, I could feel a dark cloud looming over me, an unsettling feeling that something was still not right. The air grew thick with tension, and every time I thought of the gathering, a knot tightened in my stomach. I confided in Sarah, who remained steadfast, her resolve unwavering. "This is important, William." She reassured me one evening as we sat by the flickering flames of the fire pit in my backyard. "We're giving these spirits a voice. We can't let fear hold us back." I nodded, trying to shake off the feeling that something was about to go horribly wrong. I prepared a presentation, carefully crafting each word, each story, hoping to resonate with the people who attended. I had gathered historical accounts and personal testimonials, each tale more chilling than the last, but woven together by a common thread of loss and remembrance. The thought of standing in front of a crowd, bearing my soul, filled me with both dread and purpose. As the day of the gathering approached, I spent hours in the forest, retracing my steps through the areas where I had felt the spirits most intensely. I sought to strengthen the connection, to feel their presence as I shared my intentions. Each visit filled me with a sense of clarity, as if the very trees were whispering to me, urging me to continue on this path. On the day of the event, the sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the mountains. I arrived early at the park, setting up tables for refreshments, arranging chairs in a semicircle facing the small wooden stage we had built. A palpable energy buzzed in the air as the local community began to trickle in, a mix of familiar faces and newcomers, all curious about what I had to share. I spotted Sarah as she moved among the crowd, chatting with attendees, her smile infectious. I felt a surge of gratitude for her support. She had been my rock through all of this. Together, we had created a space for healing, a bridge between the living and the spirits we sought to honor. As more people gathered, I noticed a shift in the atmosphere. A thick fog rolled in from the mountains, blanketing the area in an eerie haze. It felt almost as if the spirits themselves were present, hovering just out of sight, watching us. The whispers of the trees grew louder, echoing the stories I was about to share. Taking a deep breath, I stepped onto the stage, my heart pounding in my chest. "Thank you all for being here today," I began, my voice steady but laced with nervousness. "We've gathered to honor those who have been lost in these mountains, to share their stories and ensure they are never forgotten." As I spoke, I could feel the weight of their presence, as if the spirits were urging me forward. I told of the hikers who had vanished without a trace, the mysterious disappearances that had puzzled authorities for decades. I recounted the tragic tale of a young couple who had ventured into the park one fateful day, never to return. The crowd listened intently, the tension palpable as they absorbed the weight of the stories. I shared my own experience. The night I had encountered the spirit and the figurine I had carved. The air crackled with emotion, and I could see the fear and fascination etched on the faces of those gathered. They were invested, drawn into the tales of sorrow and vengeance that echoed through the woods. But as I delved deeper, I felt that familiar unease settle back over me. The fog thickened, swirling ominously around the gathering, and I noticed a few attendees exchanging nervous glances. I pressed on, determined to honor the spirits, to give them the voice they had been denied. Then, just as I was about to conclude my speech, a sudden chill swept through the clearing, causing the hairs on the back of my neck to stand on end. The wind howled, the trees creaked, and I could sense a shift in the atmosphere. It felt as though something was brewing just beneath the surface, a storm ready to unleash its fury. In that moment, I made a silent promise to the spirits. I would not let their stories fade away. I would fight for them, for their memory, no matter the cost. But as I glanced at Sarah, Her expression turned from excitement to fear, her eyes wide as she stared into the trees behind me. "William!" she shouted, panic creeping into her voice. "Something's wrong!" I turned, heart racing, and what I saw sent a jolt of terror through my veins. From the depths of the fog emerged a dark figure, cloaked in shadow, its eyes glowing with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. The air crackled with energy as it moved closer, and I could feel the crowd's fear escalate, their murmurs turning into gasps. "Stay back!" I called out, instinctively stepping in front of the audience, my heart pounding as I faced the apparition. It was the very embodiment of the darkness we had been confronting, a manifestation of the pain and anger that had festered for too long. "William," the figure rasped, its voice a low growl that reverberated through the clearing. "You dared to summon us." I could feel the ground beneath me tremble, and the whispers of the trees grew frantic, urging me to stand my ground. This was the moment I had been preparing for, but I hadn't anticipated it to unfold like this. "Your pain is acknowledged," I shouted, my voice trembling yet resolute. "But we're here to honor you, to share your story." The figure paused, its presence heavy in the air, and I could feel the tension reaching a breaking point. This was it. The confrontation I had feared yet secretly anticipated. I knew that if we were to make any progress, I had to confront the spirit and its anger head-on. The atmosphere crackled with tension as the dark figure loomed before us, its presence swallowing the light. The crowd, a mixture of fear and fascination, stood frozen in place, their breaths held in anticipation. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, a relentless drum echoing the gravity of the moment. "William!" The shadow hissed again, a chilling whisper that seemed to snake its way into the very depths of my soul. "You have come to this place to disturb the peace of the restless." I took a step forward, my instincts screaming to retreat, but I fought against the tide of fear that threatened to overwhelm me. "No!" I shouted, my voice carrying over the whispers of the wind. "We're here to listen, to honor your story. We mean no harm." The figure hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty flashing across its shadowy form. In that moment, I could see the pain etched in its spectral features, a haunting reminder of the tragedies that had unfolded in these woods. This spirit was not merely a force of vengeance. It was a being tormented by its own grief. "Listen," the apparition croaked, a haunting echo of sorrow lacing its voice. "For decades, I have wandered these mountains, lost in the darkness of despair. You think mere words can heal the wounds of the forgotten." The crowd remained silent, but I could see the unease written across their faces. I needed to act, to reach beyond the fear that had gripped us all. "No! Words alone may not heal," I admitted, feeling a surge of determination. "But acknowledging your pain, your story, is a step towards peace. You deserve to be remembered, not forgotten." The fog swirled around us, thickening as if the very air were alive with the spirits of the past. I could feel the weight of countless souls pressing in, their energies intertwined with the darkness that enveloped the figure before me. It was as if they were all waiting, their fates hinging on this confrontation. Suddenly, the figure lunged forward, its form shifting and twisting as it advanced toward me, an embodiment of rage and sorrow. "You think you can help me? You are nothing but a living man, bound by flesh. What do you know of my suffering?" Instinctively, I raised my hands in defense, but instead of retreating, I pressed on, driven by a fierce urgency. "I may not know your suffering, but I know the weight of loss. I've seen the toll it takes on the living. Your pain matters to us, and it's time for you to share it." With those words, I reached for the figurine I had carved weeks earlier, feeling its smooth surface beneath my fingertips. "I made this for you," I said, holding it high, the candlelight reflecting off its surface. "It represents all who have been lost, all who have suffered. It's a reminder that you are not forgotten." The spirit paused, the energy in the air shifting as it regarded the figurine with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. I could feel the crowd leaning in, their fear slowly giving way to hope. "You dare to offer me this?" the figure asked, its tone softer, more contemplative. "Yes," I responded, my voice firm. "This is not just a piece of wood. It is a symbol of remembrance and respect. We want to give you a voice. We want to share your story so that the world knows what happened here." The figure's form flickered, the darkness swirling around it as if caught in a tempest. "You speak of remembrance, yet the living continue to ignore the warnings. They come here, drawn by the beauty of the mountains, blind to the dangers that lurk beneath the surface. Then let us share that warning," I urged, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "Let us tell the world your story, so that others will understand. We can honor you, and perhaps in doing so, you will find peace." For a moment, there was silence, a heavy pause where time seemed to stand still. The air thickened with anticipation as the spirit considered my words. I could see the other spirits hovering in the shadows, their attention focused on this moment. "Peace?" the figure echoed, its voice a fragile whisper. "How can I find peace when my existence is bound to this pain?" "You must let go of the anger and grief," I implored, stepping closer, my heart racing. "We can help you release it. Together, we can shine a light on the darkness that has consumed you. But you have to trust us." The darkness surrounding the spirit flickered, and I could sense a flicker of hope emerging from within the shadows. "Trust," it murmured, almost as if tasting the word for the first time. As the figure hovered before me, I could see its form beginning to shift. The anger, once overwhelming, started to dissipate, replaced by something softer, something reminiscent of longing and sorrow. I knew that I was making progress, but I had to push further. "Let us gather your stories, share them with the world. Together, we can ensure that no one forgets the pain of those who came before. Your suffering can become a beacon for others, a warning against the dangers of these mountains." The figure tilted its head, the shadows receding as its eyes glimmered with a hint of understanding. "You wish to tell my story?" it asked, the rage in its voice fading to a mere whisper. "Yes," I affirmed, my heart swelling with hope. "Together, we can ensure your pain becomes a legacy, a reminder for all who venture into the Smoky Mountains." In that moment, I felt a shift in the air, a release of tension, as if the spirits themselves were exhaling, finally allowing the weight of their stories to surface. The crowd watched enraptured as the darkness began to dissolve, revealing the spirit's true form beneath, a figure once vibrant, now dulled by sorrow. "Then share my story, William," the spirit breathed, its voice a soft echo in the wind. "Let it be known." As I looked into its eyes, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose surge through me. This was a moment we had all been waiting for, the turning point where darkness met light. The crowd erupted into applause, their fear melting away, replaced by a shared understanding of the journey we had embarked upon together. As the last echoes of the spirit's request faded into the night, a profound stillness enveloped the clearing. The darkness that had once held such a terrifying grip over the mountains began to lift, revealing the majestic beauty of the Smokies bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. I stood amidst the crowd, a mixture of emotions swirling within me, relief, sadness, and a deep sense of connection to those who had suffered before us. We gathered around the flickering campfire, its warm light illuminating our faces as we listened intently. Each of us was transformed by the encounter, the fear that had gripped us replaced by a solemn determination to honor the spirit's plea. We shared our own stories, our own connections to these mountains, hiking trips, family gatherings, moments of solitude. It was as if the spirit had woven us together, creating a tapestry of memories that bound us to this place and to each other. In the days that followed, I took it upon myself to ensure the spirit's story would not be forgotten. I began documenting everything. The details of that night, the encounters with the restless souls, and the significance of the warnings we had received. With each word I wrote, I felt the weight of the spirit's anguish lifting from my shoulders, replaced by a sense of purpose. I knew that sharing this narrative was more than just an obligation. It was a way to give voice to the voiceless, to honor those who had been lost to the shadows of the mountains. I reached out to local parks and communities, sharing our experience and advocating for increased awareness about the dangers lurking within the Smokies. We organized events, inviting hikers and adventurers to join us in honoring the past while promoting safety and respect for the wilderness. Slowly but surely, the spirit story began to resonate beyond our small group. News of our encounter spread, drawing attention from local media and inspiring others to share their own experiences with the supernatural. Each story contributed to a growing narrative of remembrance, a collective consciousness that breathed life into the tales of those who had once wandered the same trails, haunted by their own demons. The mountains themselves became a living testament to our efforts. Markers were placed at key sites to remind visitors of the history embedded within the landscape. Hikers now carry with them a newfound respect for the spirit world, their footsteps echoing the stories of those who had come before. As I stood at the edge of a trail one crisp autumn evening, gazing out over the valleys painted in shades of gold and crimson, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The spirit, once filled with rage and sorrow, had found solace through our actions. I knew that while the journey of remembrance would never truly end, we had taken the first steps toward healing, not just for the lost souls of the Smoky Mountains, but for ourselves as well. In the heart of the wilderness, I understood that vengeance had given way to understanding, and fear had transformed into hope. And though the mountains held their secrets close, we had forged a connection, one that would echo through the ages, ensuring that no story would ever be forgotten again. Months later, as autumn leaves danced in the wind, I returned to the Smoky Mountains, a sense of purpose guiding my steps. The markers we placed stood proud along the trails, reminders of the stories we vowed to share. The spirit's presence lingered, not as a haunting shadow, but as a comforting whisper in the rustling leaves. Hikers now paused to reflect, honoring the past while embracing the beauty around them. I felt a warmth in my heart, knowing that together we had transformed fear into legacy. The mountains, once shrouded in darkness, now thrive with the light of remembrance. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Smoky Mountains, where stories intertwine with the very fabric of nature. If you found resonance in the tale of William and the lost spirits, I invite you to reflect on your own experiences. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What stories do you carry, and how do they shape your connection to the world around you? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling tales that explore the mysteries of the unknown. Click to watch the next story and uncover the secrets that lie waiting in the shadows.